Hey guys, Dre here, back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome back to Motorsport 101. On this episode, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the calendar in Formula 1, and we got a nice bit of news this morning, an interesting bit of news, that the next two rounds on the 2020 F1 calendar have just been announced. We are heading to Tuscany for the first time on September the 13th, because Formula 1 will be making its debut at the Mugello circuit, and this is an interesting one. To say the least. We'll get a little bit more into Mugello in just a second, but they also announced a return to Sochi on September 27th, 2 weeks later, for the Russian Grand Prix. They're also selling tickets for that race, so I assume there's going to be fans at the Russian Grand Prix. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work, or how they're possibly going to do that safely. But I would love to hear the Russians' plan on this one. I will be listening with intrigue as that goes on over the coming weeks, leading up to that race. But let's talk about Mugello a little bit. Mugello is in Tuscany. It's in a beautiful part of the world. I'm not going to lie. The fanboy in me is certainly excited because it is a beautiful circuit in a beautiful part of the world. It's been on the bucket list. I've always wanted to do Mugello for a MotoGP race at some point. For those guys who don't know me very well, I'm probably even more of a fan of MotoGP than I am Formula 1, and you'll see more videos of that as their season restarts next week at Jerez with a doubleheader over there. But Mugello is most associated with that. It's most associated with the Italian Grand Prix in MotoGP. Valentino Rossi, again, I think it was a 7-year winning streak in the middle of the 2000s at that very circuit, and it's a sea of yellow. The atmosphere is amazing. The fans are incredible. I've seen shit like Rossi-branded guitars and Rossi-branded chainsaws brought in by the fans. It is an incredible track. It went a bit too far a couple of years ago when people started throwing flares onto the track, which is just dangerous to say the least. But it's still an incredible track, an incredible atmosphere. It's just a bit of a shame that we're not getting a MotoGP race there this year because the FIM already cancelled the Italian Grand Prix round. We're getting 2 races at Misano instead, over in the San Marino region of Italy. But there'll be no Italian Grand Prix at Mugello for MotoGP, but there will be one for Formula 1. And it won't have fans, which is just crap, and more crap. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bike fan, so I'm gonna scream inherent bias, and I openly admit that, and I hold my hand up to that. But I am gutted that we're not gonna get fans, and we're not gonna get a MotoGP race there. And it's exciting. I'm glad that Formula 1's gonna be down there. It is a fun track. It's also going to be Ferrari's 1,000th Grand Prix in Formula 1. I think it's actually the Grand Prix has been named the Tuscany Ferrari 1000 GP, which is going to be hilarious when they inevitably finish 7th and 8th at that Grand Prix in September. But I mean, people have talked about it. I mean, I'm going to show an onboard lap from James Collado when he drove around there earlier this year in one of the older Ferraris. Look, it's a great track. ... if you're into bikes. With the amount of downforce these cars generate, with how big they are, the fact it's a very narrow circuit in many areas, you'll barely be able to get 2 cars in. 3 wides are going to be virtually impossible outside of the main straight. With these downforce, the fact there's going to be a lot of chicanes, a lot of slow to medium speed corners where downforce will be a factor, it's going to be impossible to follow around here. Following cars is going to be pretty shit as far as I'm concerned. A very medium speed final corner means that passing is going to be hard. You're going to have to get right on the back of somebody's gearbox for the DRS zone, which, again, there's probably only going to be one of them on this circuit because I can't think of anywhere else they'll be able to fit one to make it work. Maybe before the final corner, maybe the straights before and after that penultimate chicane sequence, because those 2 corners will be flat out in an F1 car, no doubt about that. They're virtually flat out in a MotoGP bike half the time. But overtaking is going to be virtually impossible around here, I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm not blaming you know, the circuit itself for that. It's a brilliant bike track. It's had many a fantastic Mugello race. It's just the nature of bikes v cars With bikes, you don't need super long straights to pass anybody. You can square off corners, you can brake really, really late compared to somebody else and force an overtake. You can't do that in Formula 1, given how fast these cars are. It's hard to get a nose in like that on that sort of level, given how long a Formula 1 car is. We saw it with Albon last week in Austria. So it's just a bad fit for cars. And as much as I love Mugello, this race is probably going to stink unless there's rain. Now, don't get me wrong. On paper, it's easy to say that about a lot of these. Hang on, AVG driver updater just chipped in. In the middle of me recording, that's funny. But look, I know it's easy to say that about a lot of tracks on the current Formula 1 calendar, but they're not going to be tweaking the cars till 2022, so we have to take our frustration out on something, so we take it out on the tracks instead, because that makes us feel better about it. And I get that. You know, a lot of people want to throw the Tilkodromes under the bus, but the Tilkodromes have got the exact same problem, so it's not the Tilkodromes' fault either. It's just the nature of these cars and the fact they're not designed for overtaking and for entertaining racing on paper. It's not good for the show. We all know this. So hopefully hopefully the weather won't be great, and hopefully will be some sort of attrition or incidents or safety cars that can make it interesting, because that's what tends to happen, and that's what leads to these Hall of Fame level races we often talk about, like Hungary and Austria last year, Austria this year. It tends to be the attrition safety car races are the ones that are remembered most. So that might be Mugello's only hope. There's other rumours going around as well on the calendar. We're talking about the possibility of a triple header in October, with races at Hockenheim, Imola and Portimao potentially being touted for October. Now, Hockenheim, no track stock on the calendar is probably higher than Hockenheim, because they've had back-to-back ridiculous Grand Prix the last 2 years that, again, that had all the elements I mentioned earlier. Shock results, drama, changeable weather, strategy changes, safety cars, etc., etc. Germany has had that in spades for the last 2 years, so it's hardly a surprise that people are excited for Hockenheim to come back, because it's just had a knack of producing entertaining races in the last couple of years, and it's a good track for these cars in general. I think the average entertainment factor of Germany has been pretty high for the last few years, so yeah, I can understand people are going to be hyped for Hockenheim, because it's generally done well the last few years. Imola doesn't surprise me, because Imola just got its FIA Grade 1 status back. I was wondering as to why that would be. I was thinking, wait, like, why is it now all of a sudden? Because Imola's been trying to get back on the F1 calendar for years, but everybody that knows Imola from its World Superbikes history that's had in recent years knows that the facilities for it aren't great. The track is a little bit run down. It needs a little bit of sprucing up. But the FIA just gave it Grade 1 status again. And I had a feeling that there'd be some sort of coincidence as to why that suddenly would happen in the year of our Lord 2020. And it's looking like there's going to be a race at Imola. Again, I think it's going to be a similar issue to Mugello. Like, where are you going to pass? I think your best bet is probably going to be... And it depends what format of track they run, because are they going to have the final chicane in there? If they have 2 DRS zones, maybe one leading up to the chicane and one afterwards, it could work. Or you could have the Variante layout without the last chicane and have one big long straight, which is over 1 kilometre long, to have passes into turn 1, make an already fast track even faster. That could potentially be a workaround as well. Imola will be beautiful to look at. I'm not sure again about the quality of racing, but again, it's not the track's fault that's the problem here, it's the cars. But I am also super hyped for Portimao. Portimao is a beautiful track in Portugal. I've said it before, I think it's one of the very best circuits in the world. It's used in World Superbikes. It's got everything you could want in a racetrack. You've got undulation, slow, medium, fast corners, multiple straights where you could potentially make a pass on somebody. It's technical, it's challenging, it's got just about everything you could want in a Grand Prix circuit, and could be very, very fun indeed. So I am all for bringing Portimao onto the calendar. I'm shocked it's not used in MotoGP. I'm shocked it's not used in more series in general, period. It is an awesome, awesome track, and I can't wait to see it happen. The last point I was really going to make is that the way the calendar is forming, we're up to 10 races now. I know the series is still aiming for 15 to 18. Don't be surprised if the vast majority of these races are in Europe. The flyaways and the logistics of working flyaway rounds of individual countries having their own travel restrictions, quarantines, and who can come in and do what is going to be all over the place for the next few weeks and months while that all gets resolved, and not to mention the nature of having potentially two races in certain places, potentially travel bans, potentially quarantines, etc. It could be a bit messy. So Europe is the safest place for Formula One to race right now, and keeping that bubble as intact as possible. I think if there's going to be flyaway rounds, it'll probably be Bahrain and Abu Dhabi as far as it goes. I think Bahrain apparently is keen to have two races, with the possibility of the oval layout, or the alleged oval layout that they've been hinting at as a potential alternate layout, using the back part of the endurance layout of the track to make it a super high speed, multiple big straight track. I would actually quite love to see that as a unique challenge for the engine suppliers, or the power unit suppliers I should say, having to manage your engine on a track where you're going to be at full throttle 85% of the time. I'm actually genuinely really looking forward to that and seeing how that could roll out. So if Bahrain wants to host two Grand Prix, I think that could be a very tempting layout they could potentially run, and I would love to see them try and pull it off. But let me know what you guys want to see on the calendar. Let me know what you think of Mugello being on the calendar, a potential triple header in October. Would love to hear all you guys' takes on that as always. But I've been Dre. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Sayonara.